us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and legislative assemblies for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Could you ring that bell, please? We get members in the house. Open the door, please, and just ring the bell. Could I look at the OSA chamber, please? Okay, I think we have quorum. We might start now. Just tell them to stop ringing the bell.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Proceed.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Good morning, honorable members. Under this order number, we have some communication. The following communication to make on Machakos County Emergency Fund Regulations 2020. Honorable members, you recall that on 8th of September 2020, the Committee on Delegated Legislation, through its chairperson, Honorable Patrick Kituku, tabled a motion for approval of draft Machakos County Emergency Response Fund Regulations 2020. The report was referred back to the committee on concerns that the regulations had not been published by the County Executive Committee member for Finance and Economic Planning, as well as failure to hold public participation. Honorable members, the chair ruled that the County Executive Committee member undertakes publication in the Kenya Gazette, provides a regulatory impact assessment, and conducts public participation on the regulations urgently, and a report on the regulations be tabled in the House on or before the 29th of September 2020. Honorable members, on the 29th of September 2020, during Bunge Mashinani at Chelene Ward, the chairperson for the Committee on Delegated Legislation requested for an extension of time to table the report, noting that the CCM and the County Law Office had already developed a harmonized draft of the regulations, but we are yet to finalize on publication and public participation. Honorable members, the County Assembly has received a request of extension of time by 14 days from the County Executive Committee member for Finance and Economic Planning to allow for publication of the regulations and conducting of public participation. The request is dated the 29th of September 2020 and was received at the Assembly on the 5th day of October in the year of our Lord 2020. Honorable members, I have carefully considered the request and do hereby grant the request of 14 days. The County Executive Committee member should ensure that he undertakes publication of the regulations in the Kenya Gazette, undertakes public participation, and provides information of regulatory impact assessment, and submit a report to the Assembly on or before the 16th day of October 2020. These are more than 2 weeks, bearing in mind the request for extension of time is dated the 29th of September 2020. Honorable members, further, the Committee on Delegated Legislation should table a report on the regulations in the Assembly for approval on or before the 27th day of October 2020 before the House adjourns for a short recess, which will be up to the 9th of November in the year of our Lord 2020. Thank you, honorable members. Mr. Clerk, proceed.
Order number 3, messages.
Proceed.
Order number 4, petitions.
Proceed.
Order number 5, papers.
Proceed.
Order number 6, notice of motion.
Honorable members, under this order number, we have one business to be transacted by the Honorable Stephen Mwandi, Chairperson, Finance and Revenue Collection Committee. Honorable Steve.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Stephen Mwandi, representing Ekalakale Katini Ward. Honorable Speaker, that aware that Article 210, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya provides that no tax or licensing fee may be imposed, waived, or varied, except provided by legislation. Further, aware that the County Assembly enacted the Machakos County Finance Act 2019, which provides for imposition of taxes, fees, and charges. Aware that this act provides for licensing of entertainment, joints, selling alcohol to acquire single business permits, SBP. Also aware that the SBPs expire on that 1st December every year. Concerned that the coronavirus 2019 pandemic has had far-reaching effects to the economy worldwide, aware that business in our county have not been spared either from these effects. Also aware that the businesses selling drinks such as bars and clubs have been out of business for 6 months between April to September 2020. Aware that this was as a result of the order by the President of Kenya to close these businesses in order to contain the spread of COVID-19. Noting that the bars and clubs have suffered significant loss of revenue due to the closure. Further aware that there are only 3 months to the expiry of their licenses and the business may not be able to recover the lost revenue. Aware that the businesses need to be supported to start afresh. Aware that one way of assisting the businesses is to reduce the cost of acquiring permits to operate, as they will expire in 3 months' time. Mr. Speaker, I wish to give notice of motion that the Assembly resolves 1. That all the charges for permits, including public health certificates, single business permits for bars and clubs, and any other alcoholic selling business be reduced by 50%. And 2, that the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8th October and 30th November 2020. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Steve. Mr. Clerk, proceed.
Order number 7, statements.
Honorable members, under this order number, we have one business to be transacted by the Honorable Alex Kamito.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'm Alex Kamito, MC Talloud and leader of minority in this house, and on behalf of our majority leader, let me take this opportunity to give out the statement for House Business Committee. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee met on Monday, 5th October 2020 to ballot business for House as forwarded by committees and honorable members pursuant to the provisions of the Standing Order number 151 sub 5. The committee balloted additional business for 6th October 2020 and business for 13th October 2020 as follows. 1. Tuesday morning, 6th October 2020 at 10 a.m. A. Motion by Honorable Stephen Mwanthi, Chairperson, Finance and Revenue Collection Committee, that the Assembly resolves 1. That all the charges for permits, including public health certificates and single business permits for bars and clubs and any other alcoholic selling business, be reduced by 50%. 2. That the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8th October and 30th November 2020. 2. Tuesday, afternoon 6th October 2020 at 2:30 p.m. B. Statement requested by Honorable Betty Nzioki, MCA, Masi Ward, that pursuant to the Assembly Standing Orders number 41, A. What is the county executive doing to ensure that the county government public land is conserved and protected from grabbing? 2. What is the county government doing to ensure that all lost land is restored to the county and any other conversions of land from public to private ownership follows the legal process as highlighted in Section 9(2)(d) of the Land Act. 3. Tuesday morning, 13th October 2020 at 10 a.m. C. Report of Culture and Tourism Committee on the status report for the Department of Culture and Tourism for the year 2019 and 2020 by Honorable Betty Nzioki, Chairperson, Culture and Tourism Committee. 4. Tuesday afternoon, 13th October 2020 and at 2:30 p.m. A. Report of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee on petition by Mr. Abanas Mativa by Honorable Moffat Maitha, Chairperson, Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Alex Amitu, for that statement read. Just for information of the House, this is additional business. Remember, we had already balloted business for this week, last week, so this is just additional to what was already balloted last week. And therefore, all the other businesses are there, as you'll be seeing in the order paper. Mr. Clerk, proceed.
Order number 8, motion, report of Public Accounts and Investment Committee on the financial statement of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended June 2018.
Thank you, honorable members. Under this order number, we have one business to be transacted by Honorable Joseph Musau, Chairperson, Park Committee. Honorable Joseph Musau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Joseph Omgwa Musau, the member for Buni Ward and the chair, Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Mr. Speaker, we are that Article 229, Sub-Article 5 of the Constitution provides that the Auditor General may monitor the report on the accounts of any entity that is funded from public funds. Further, we are that Article 229, Sub-Article 7 of the Constitution that says that the audit report shall be submitted to Parliament or the relevant County Assembly. Cognizant that the audit report on financial statement of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended June 2018 was received in the office of the clerk on 18th October 2018. Further, where that the report was submitted to the Committee of Public Accounts and Investment pursuant to Standing Order number 185 sub-order 2B and C, that says that the Public Accounts and Investment Committee shall be responsible for examination of reports, accounts, and working of the county public investments and whether the affairs or the public investments are being managed in accordance with the sound financial or business principles and commercial practices. Mr. Speaker, we are that the Assembly forwarded the response of this report to the Office of the Auditor General that was received on 31st August 2020. It informed that after 1 week of receipt of the response, the committee on 7 September 2020 invited the accounting officer, interrogated him, and subsequently compiled a report. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move the motion that this House discusses, approves the report of financial statements of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended June 2018. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would wish to call the Honorable Member for Cheleni, Honorable Kasioki, to second this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kasioki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Joseph Mwanzia Kasioki, MCA Chelen Ward. I stand here to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kasioki. Honorable Joseph Musau, you may read the report.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Before there was a report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended 30th June 2018 by the Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Mr. Speaker, there are abbreviations in the report such as CASB, that is CASIB, referring to County Assembly Service Board, IFMIS, that is IFMIS, referring to Integrated Financial Management Information System, IPPD, Integrated Payroll and Personnel Database, HIPSAS, that is IPSAS, referring to International Public Sector Accounting Standards, and MCAS, referring to members of County Assembly. As introduction, Mr. Speaker, the report of Auditor General on the financial statements of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended 30th June 2018 was received in the office of the clerk on 19th May 2019, pursuant to Article 229 Sub-Article 7 of the Constitution that said that the county report shall be submitted to Parliament or the relevant county assembly. The Assembly, on receipt of the county report, prepared a response to the queries raised, which was later received in the office of the Auditor General on July 2020. The county report was submitted to the Public Accounts and Investment Committee pursuant to Standing Order number 185, Sub-Order 2, B and C, that says that the Public Accounts and Investment Committee shall be responsible for the examination of reports, account and workings of the county public investment, and whether the affairs of the public investments are being managed in accordance with sound financial or business principles and prudent commercial practices. The committee's mandate, Mr. Speaker. The Public Accounts and Investment Committee is established pursuant to Standing Order number 185, Sub-Order 1 and 2, that says that there shall be a select committee to be designated the County Public Accounts and Investment Committee, which shall be responsible for A, the examination of the account showing the appropriation of the sum voted by the County Assembly to meet the public expenditure, and of such other accounts laid before the County Assembly as the committee may think fit. B, the examination of the reports, accounts, and workings of the county public investments. C, the examination in the context of the autonomy and efficiency of the county public investments, whether the affairs of the county public investments are being managed in accordance with the sound financial or business principles and prudent commercial practices. Mr. Speaker, the committee is comprised of Honorable Jeso Kwambua Musau and Honorable Winfred Mutua as the chair and the vice chair respectively, and the following members: Honorable Paul Museko, Honorable Alison Zioka, Honorable Joanna Monyao, Honorable Josephat Kasioki, and Honorable Peter Motiso. The legal framework. Mr. Speaker, in the execution of its mandate, though aforestated, the committee was guided by the Constitution and other laws on public finance management below.
Chair, I think we could skip the legal framework.
Yes.
All members can be able to read that.
Yes.
And with your indulgence, maybe we could go to the committee's sitting and taking evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance. The committee sitting and evidence taking. Mr. Speaker, the Assembly received the Auditor General's report on County Assembly of Machakos financial statements for the year ended June 2018 on 19th May 2019. The report had an adverse opinion. Notwithstanding this opinion, the accounting officer provided the Auditor General with the management response of this report 1 year and 3 months down the line on that 1st August 2020, contrary to Article 229 Sub-Article 8 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Consequently, on 7th September 2020 at 10 a.m., 1 week after receipt of the management response, the committee held a meeting with the accounting officer of Machakos County Assembly and the representatives of the County General at the Assembly chambers to respond on the queries raised in the County Report pursuant to Article 229, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution that provides that the accounting officer of a county public entity is accountable to the County Assembly for its financial management. The queries arising from the financial statement, Mr. Speaker. In the opinion of the auditor, the financial statement did not present fairly the financial position of the County Assembly of Machakos as at 30th June 2018 and of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year ended, and in accordance with IPSA standard. Hence, the adverse opinion. The following audit queries were raised in the audit report and responded to by the accounting officer as follows. 6.1 Inaccuracies in the financial statements. 6.1.1 Discrepancies between the financial statements, supporting documents, and IFMIS. Honorable Speaker, the financial statements were prepared using a manual general ledger. However, there are material variances noted between IFMIS and the financial statements balances, which cast doubt on the accuracy of the financial statements. Details of the variances are described. Roman 1. The IFMIS statement of receipt and expense shows that there was no money received by the entity during 2017-2018 financial year, and that total expenditure amount to Kenya shillings 689,692,241, while the audit statement of receipt and payment reflects amounts of Kenya shillings 943,989,147, and the Kenya shillings 912,358,397 for receipts and total expenditure respectively. This results in variation of Kenya shillings 943,986,147 and Kenya shillings 254,293,906 for receipts and payments respectively. The IFMIS figures have not been reconciled with those reported in the financial statements. Roman 2. The statement of financial assets and liabilities per IFMIS shows net of negative Kenya shillings 1,501,522,721, while the net of financial assets as per the entity's financial statements are reflected as Kenya shillings 22,007,041, a variation of Kenya shillings 523,529,762. Roman 3. The County Assembly maintains a manual general ledger from which the financial statements are prepared, but the ledger is not properly maintained since there are material variations noted between the totals for transactions as per primary document and the totals as per the general ledger. For instance, there was a double posting of Kenya shillings 393,966 and 55 cents in the compensation of employees accounts in the manual ledger, casting doubt on the liability of the manual ledger and its closing balances thereon. The County Assembly has continued maintaining a manual ledger even when it is required to process all transactions using IFMIS and generate financial report from IFMIS. In view of the foregoing, the financial statement's completeness and accuracy could not be confirmed. In response, Mr. Speaker, the funds received of Kenya shillings 943,986,147 during the financial year were captured in the books of account, that is the receipts register, fiscal register that was available to the auditors for verification. The reason as to why the receipts had not been captured in IFMIS register is because the Assembly did not have the IFMIS receipting responsibilities, that is the revenue module, but the management now has been issued with the rights and the same have been captured and reconciled in the IFMIS system. The variance of Kenya shillings 254,293,996 and expenditure was as a result of journals that had been done and not complete, that is, create accounting in the IFMIS system to reflect in the IFMIS general ledger, a problem that is common with the IFMIS system. They have begun posting the journal entries, and now the variance is at Kenya shillings 5,580,310 from Kenya shillings 254,293,906. Roman 2, Mr. Speaker, the IFMIS figure reported of Kenya shillings negative 1,501,522,721 for financial assets and liabilities is as a result of receipts that have not been captured in IFMI's cash book for both prior years. We have begun doing the posting, and once these are captured, the negative figures reported in the financial statements will be reconciled. The Assembly uses IFMIS in processing of its payments. Once the payments have been done, they are recorded in the cash book and captured in the general ledger. During the financial year 2017-2018, the Assembly was maintaining a manual ledger. The double posting of Kenya shillings 393,966 and 55 cents has been corrected to avoid such errors in the future. They have begun maintaining the general ledger in a form of an Excel worksheet for the current financial year. They will use these to prepare the financial statement together with the IFMIS general ledger. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed the following. That the Assembly did not fully use IFMIS, but instead kept a manual ledger from which financial statements were prepared. B. The Assembly Department of Finance had experienced shortage of staff during the period under review, which caused a backlog in updating both the manual ledgers and IFMIS. However, at the moment, the shortage of staff has been addressed with the reinstatement of 2 officers previously suspended. C. IFMIS appears to have technical issues where some transactions possibly do not generate subsequent general ledger entries. And D. All funds amounting to Kenya shillings 943,986,147 were spent. However, the IFMIS reflected less expenditure of Kenya shillings 689,692,241, which was occasioned by failure to reconcile in time. The committee recommends the following, Mr. Speaker. Since the Assembly has been issued with the sitting responsibility that the amount you raise, all receipts of transactions should be captured in the IFMIS. B. The accounting officer should strictly enforce the use of IFMIS in Assembly transactions at all times and address formally any challenges faced in the use of the system with the National Treasury. C. The accounting officer should ensure that all transactions are updated in IFMIS and the manual ledger only maintained as a backup and not a primary reference document for purpose of preparing financial statements. And D. The management should ensure that all posting are done promptly. Mr. Speaker, the concern on unsupported adjustments to revised financial statements. Though the management of the County Assembly submitted adjusted financial statements, a revised value balance was not submitted. The management also failed to provide journal features to show the movement of the figures and the balances from the original financial statements to the revised ones. Mr. Speaker, the following are the affected figures and the balances. We have a chart of statements of receipts and payments. We have the adjusted financial statements in Kenya shillings, the original financial statements in Kenya shillings, and the variance. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, I will read the variance.
Please.
The transfer from County Treasury as a variance of positive 22,394,000. Compensation of employees as a variance of 16,916,904. On acquisition, we have a variance of 16,747,663. And on the statement of financial assets and liabilities, the accounts receivables have a variance of 982,099 shillings. On the account payables, it has a variance of 63,368,597. On the bank balances, that is the total bank balances, there is a variance of 4,892,925. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the accuracy of the affected figures and the account balances could not be confirmed. In response, Mr. Speaker, the management said that they prepared and submitted the revised trial balance and submitted it as Appendix 12. In their response for the draft audit report to Kenao, and the same is available for review. Roman 1, Mr. Speaker, transfer from County Treasury. The adjusted financial statement shows Kenya shillings 943,986,147. The Assembly adjusted the financial statement to reflect the Kenya shillings 22,304,000 receipts which were meant for supply and installation of a gym but received after 30th June 2018. And the total receipts increased from Kenya shillings 921,592,147 to Kenya shillings 943,989,147. On this, Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that receipts received after 30th June were reflected in the trial balance as at 30th June, since the primary document utilized to revise the financial statement was manual general ledger. The bank statement reflected this transaction in the month of July in the following financial year. In the recommendation, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the accounting officer should ensure that all transactions are updated in IFMIS and manual ledger only maintained as a backup and not as primary reference document for purposes of preparing financial statements. And B, such transactions happening after the closure of the financial year should be reflected in the next financial year's financial statement as prior period adjustment and disclosed. Roman 2, Mr. Speaker, on compensation of employees. The original financial statement reflected Kenya shillings 360,139,912, which included an overstatement of Kenya shillings 16,916,904 as a result of error of original entry. But later, the Assembly adjusted the financial statement to correct the amount. They are now maintaining the general ledger in Excel to avoid such errors in the future. The Assembly did not pass the journal through the IFMIS system since they were not preparing their statements using IFMIS. The journal entries were done on Excel schedules which are available for review. The Committee on Observation, Mr. Speaker. The Assembly was maintaining manual ledger during the period under review, which is prone to human errors. Committee recommendation, Mr. Speaker. The accounting officer should ensure that all transactions are updated in IFMIS and the manual ledger only maintained as a backup and not a primary reference document for purpose of preparing financial statements. Roman 3, Mr. Speaker, is on acquisition of assets. The original financial statements were amended to include an expenditure of Kenya shillings 16,747,663 for supply and installation of local area network, that's ALAN, for payment that was done with the funds received after 30th June 2018. The works were compensated much later after close of the financial year, and Assembly processed the payment using the budget of financial year 2017-2018. In observation, Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that neither the works nor the receipts of the monies were done during the financial year under review. The transactions done after 30th June were reflected in the trial balance as at 30th June, since the primary document utilized to revise the financial statements was manual general ledger. The committee recommends that such transactions happening after the closure of the financial year should be reflected in the next financial year statements as prior period adjustment and it is closed. Mr. Speaker, the statement of financial assets and liabilities. Roman 1. Accounts receivables. The accounts receivables, that is the salary and advances, were erroneously included in the original financial statements, but the same was adjusted and reported as an annex under the notes to the amended financial statements. The committee observed that the Assembly was maintaining manual ledger during the period under review, which is prone to human error. And in recommendation, Mr. Speaker, the accounting officer should ensure that all transactions are updated in IFMIS and manual ledger, only maintained as a backup and not as primary reference document for purpose of preparing financial statements. Roman 2, the account payables. Mr. Speaker, the figures for account payables in the original financial statements were Kenya shillings 27,163,138 and not Kenya shillings 22,899,306 as indicated in the report. The figure of Kenya shillings 77,163,138 comprised of the total of all pending bills of Kenya shillings 67,542,429 and the retention monies of Kenya shillings 9,620,709. The financial statements were amended to remove the figures of pending bills, which were disclosed under notes to the amended financial statements. In observation, Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that the discrepancies between the figures on accounts payables and original financial statements reported by the Auditor General and those reported under the management response. This reflects a disconnect between the management and the audit team during the time of audits, as such issues should be cleared before preparation of the final audit report. In recommendation, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the accounting officer should designate an officer to act as a liaison person between the audit team and the assembly during the entire audit process. On bank balances, Mr. Speaker, that's from 3, the original financial statements reflect the bank balances as at 30th June 2018, but the financial statements were just to reflect receipts received after the close of the financial year, but which related to the financial year. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that the bank statements reflected this transaction in the month of July in the following financial year. And in a recommendation, therefore, Mr. Speaker, such transactions happening after the closure of the financial year should be reflected in the next financial year's financial statement as prior period adjustment, and it is closed. The management should ensure that all bank reconciliations are done by 10th of every month as required by PFM, County Government Regulations 2015, accordance to regulation number 91. Variance in cash and cash equivalent balance. Misstatements were observed in the cash and equivalent balances as below. The statement of financial assets and liabilities indicate a cash and cash equivalents balance showing that 1,627,750, while the statement of cash flows indicates cash and equivalent figures of negative Kenya shillings for 3,725,318, resulting in a variance of Kenya shillings 25,353,067, which is equivalent to the balance at the end of 2016-2017 financial year. The negative balance has not been explained in a note to the financial statements. 2. Further, both the reconciled recurrent and development cash books show a total bank balance of Kenya shillings 2,560,062, which varies from the financial statement figure by Kenya shillings 29,067,687 as follows. Mr. Speaker, there is a chart of variance between figures as per financial statement and the reconciled cash book. We have the bank balances as per the cash book, bank balances as per note 13A, all in Kenya shillings. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I read the variances. On the recurrent, there is a variance of Kenya shillings 8,315,928. On development, there is a variance of 20,751,759. Mr. Speaker, there is a printing error on the commercial bank accounts, but it's not an error because the variance is 0. As the bank balance as per cash book is 15,293, and the bank balance as per note 13 here is also 15,293, and the variance is 0. There's no variance. Then we have the totals. The total of variance is 29,067,687. The statement of financial assets and liabilities reflect a nil cash in hand balance as at 30th June 2018. The Board of Survey report for the year and note 13B to the financial statement, however, indicate cash in hand balance of Kenya shillings 21,002 as at the same date. This amount does not be disclosed in the statement of financial assets and liabilities as at 30th June 2018. In view of the above, the accuracy of the cash and cash equivalents balance could not be confirmed. In response, Mr. Speaker, the management said that the cash flow statement includes a figure of Kenya shillings 25,353,067 for pending bills brought forward for financial year 2016-2017, and the financial statement will be amended to correct the entry. And 2. The notes of the financial statement reflect Kenya shillings 9,218,456 as the recurrent account balance as at the end of the financial year. The cash book as at 30th June 2018 showed a balance of Kenya shillings 902,528, which is different from the Kenya shillings 9,218,456. The reason for the difference is that the assembly received monies in the first week of July, and they paid the transaction which were already at the internet banking level in the same month. The transactions paid in July 2018 were reported to have been incurred in financial year 2017-2018, since they affect the budget estimates for the same period. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the correct balance for the recurrent account was Kenya shillings 9,218,456 for development account balance. The balance reported in the amended financial statement was Kenya shillings 22,394,000, while the cash book balance as at 30th June 2018 was Kenya shillings 1,642,245. The reason of the difference is that the Assembly received some money in July 2018. The same money was used to pay for works executed in the fiscal year 2017-2018. Therefore, the correct balance for the account was Kenshin 22,294,000. At the time of audit, the cash book balance as at 30th June 2018 was without taking into consideration monies which were received after 30th June 2018. The cash balance of the 21,002 was erroneously omitted and will be captured in the amended financial statements. In observation, Mr. Speaker, transactions done after 30 June were reflected in the financial statements as at 30 June, since the primary document raised to revise the financial statement was Manual General Ledger. The bank statement reflected this transaction in the month of July in the following financial year. The committee, therefore, Mr. Speaker, recommends that such transactions happening after the closure of the financial year should be reflected in the next financial statements as prior period adjustment and disclosed. The accounting officer should ensure that all transactions are updated in infamous and manual ledger only maintained as a backup and not as primary reference document for purposes of preparing financial statements. 1.4 is failure to observe cut-off procedures, Mr. Speaker. The statement of receipts and payment includes transactions that occurred during 2018-2019 fiscal year, contrary to Regulation 97.1 of the Public Financial Management, that the County Government Regulation 2015, that requires the accounts of the county government entities to record transactions which take place during a financial year running from 1st June to the 30th June of any financial year. This failure to observe the cut-off procedures also contradicts IPSAS, that is the cash basis of accounting that requires receipts and payments to be recognized when they actually occur. The following transactions occurred after the year, and yet they were treated as if they occurred within the financial year. 1. The statement of receipts and payment of reflects Kenya shillings 943,986, 147 in respect receipts which include Kenya shillings 107,596,597 posted in the cash book on 16 July 2016. The financial statements reflect an expenditure of Kenya shillings 150,920,962 for acquisition of assets which include Kenya shillings 67,928,945 for construction of buildings. This expenditure for construction of buildings include the amounts of Kenya shillings 15,828,399 paid by the County Assembly to a construction company in July and August 2018, thereby overstating the expenditure for 2017-2018 by Kenya shillings 15,828,209 as follows. Date paid, payment voucher, details, amount paid. On 19th July 2018, the payment vouchers 314 and 315 were used to pay for payment of proposed construction of County Assembly Office blocks as per interim certificate number 10. Cash amounting to 2,618,945. And in 1st August 2018, payment vouchers 322 and 324 were used for payment for proposed construction of County Assembly Office blocks as per interim certificate number 11. Amounts 13,209,459, totaling to 15,820,309. There was no evidence that Treasury issued a circular that allowed payment made and receipts after the year end to be recognized during the financial year. The financial statements have therefore not been prepared in accordance with IPSAS cash basis. In response, Mr. Speaker, the transfer of Kenya shillings 107,596,591 received in July 2018 financial year 1819 was meant for development purposes. The Assembly had a development budget for some items whose funding was received in the month of July, which is in the fiscal year 2018-2019. The works or supplies were done in the fiscal year 2017-2018, and the transactions were done up to interim banking by 30th June 2018. For the works which were still ongoing, that is after 30th June 2018, the Assembly retained the funds in the development account until the time when the works and the supplies were completed as per their specifications. The payments were released after the inspection committee certified the work as having been complete. For the works which were not undertaken or started by the close of the year financial year 2017-2018, the funds were swept back to CRF. The reason as to why the funds were released late, that there were delays in approving the acquisition by COB as they needed some clarification. The clarifications were given, and by the time they were already in the current financial year. Further, the Assembly did not have budget provision for some of the items in the current budget estimates, and this could have disadvantaged the suppliers, and they returned the monies as they could have waited for the preparation of supplementary budget estimates in the second half of financial year. The Assembly posted these receipts in the current financial year as per the authority issued by the National Treasury through Circular Ref AG 4/16/2, Volume 2, 90. See the attached copy. The Assembly had done its acquisition in good time, but there was delay in release of funds by COB as she needed some clarification on the same. Since the funds were received in July 2018, and this had affected the 2017-2018 budget estimates, the same were accounted for in the same period. In the fiscal year, the said payments will not be reported since they are already reported. The Kenya shillings 15,828,309 paid to Staple Builders Limited for construction of the new office block was also reported in the fiscal year 2017-2018 since it affected 2017-2018 budget estimates. The National Treasury had also allowed government entities to continue processing transactions up to around 15 July 2018, and control of budget was also approving acquisitions. All these were as a result of delayed release of monies by the National Treasury. Mr. Speaker, there is a chart of the daily paid payment voucher details. Mr. Speaker, this to me seems to be a repetition of what we have just read. So, Mr. Speaker, you allow me to go direct to the committee observations. The transactions were affecting funds released by the Exchequer after the closure of the financial year. National Treasury issued a circular ref NG 4/16/2 Volume 2 in brackets 9 dated 5th October 2018. This was within the time of audit. The auditors advised that he had not received such a circular from the management. This reflects a disconnect between the management and the audit team during the time of audit, as such issues should be addressed before preparation of the final audit reports. The committee, therefore, Mr. Speaker, recommends, pursuant to Regulation Number 97, Clause 4 and 98, Clause 1 of the Public Finance Management, that the County Government Regulation 2015, the management should always adhere to cash basis of accounting, which requires that the receipts to be recognized when they are actually received and the payments when they are paid respectively. The management should disclose all information sought by the auditors during the time of audit. And 3, the management should be proactive in seeking all relevant information to avoid such queries. Mr. Speaker, concern number 3 was the concern on unsupported expenditure of Kenya shillings 261,355,771. The statement of receipt and payment uses an expenditure of Kenya shillings 358,214,428 in respect of use of goods and services, which include expenditure items with a total of Kenya shillings 261,355,771 as detailed in Note 5 to the financial statement and as such detailed below. We have the payment lacking supporting documents, the expenditure item and the amount spent. Domestic travels and subsistence. Amount spent 190,156,002. Foreign travels and subsistence 21,240,013. Utility supplies and services 2,166,014. Hospitality supplies and services 2,323,163. Routine maintenance, that is vehicles and other transport equipment 2,242,994. Insurance costs 31,854,130. Office and general supplies and services 80,107,140. Fuel, oil and lubricants 3,266,315. Total expenditure 261,355,771. Mr. Speaker, however, these amounts are not supported with expenditures analysis or schedules showing details of the payments. Consequently, regularity of the expenditure of Kenya shillings 261,355,771 could not be confirmed. In response, Mr. Speaker, the Assembly said that it incurred a total of Kenya shilling 358,214,428 for use of goods during the financial year. This amount was incurred on various vote heads, and a detailed analysis of the Kenya shilling 261,355,771 has been provided. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that a response was forwarded to the Auditor General and the matter was cleared. The representatives from the Auditor General's office confirmed that the query was cleared. The committee was also satisfied. The committee recommends that the County Assembly should refrain disclose all information to auditors during the time of audit, pursuant to Section 9(1)(e) of the Public Audit Act 2015 to avoid issues appearing in the management letter and later to appear in the final audit report. On the unupdated fixed assets register, Mr. Speaker, the statement of receipts and payments fixed Kenya shillings 150,920,962 in respect of fixation of assets, and which includes an amount of Kenya shillings 58,108,944 for purchases of office furniture and general equipment. The fully fixed assets register shows that additions for the year for the same asset item category amounted to Kenya shillings 56,864,443, thus resulting in an unexplained variance of Kenya shillings 1,244,501. The fixed assets register for whom it was not properly maintained to ensure that all procured items are taken on charge, properly accounted for, and put in proper use as intended by the procuring entity. Further, physical inspection carried out and a check on the items delivered revealed various variances. In response, Mr. Speaker, during the financial year, the Assembly purchased furniture of Kenya shillings 56,864,443. The figure of Kenya shillings 57,966,702 as shown in the financial statement represent the total figure for the furniture and the purchase of office equipment of Kenya shillings 1,259,259 to give a total of Kenya shillings 57,963,782. The two expenditure classes were combined during preparation of financial statements as per the template provided by the National Treasury in the acquisition of assets. A detailed schedule of the same has been provided. During the time of the audit process, the fixed assets register provided did not have tagging details of the assets since the tagging process had not begun, although the process had been initiated. The tagging process has now been completed. The asset is being updated to reflect the tag number for each item. During the fiscal year, the Assembly purchased furniture for the new office block. All purchased items were delivered, received and inspected by the Inspection and Acceptance Committee and entered into the stores form S13. The Assembly has put these control measures to ensure that payments are only done for items supplied only. In observation, Mr. Speaker, the committee observed the Assembly had not kept an updated asset register during the time of audit. It therefore recommended that all County Assembly assets must be tagged and given asset reference number. An asset register opened and maintained. The management should ensure that the asset register is updated regularly and it is in place by end of 30th June every year as required. To this end, the committee expects the accounting officer to provide an updated asset register within 60 days of the receipt of this report. The County Assembly should also maintain a fixed assets movement schedule for ease of reference. Concern number 4, Mr. Speaker, was on the difference in transfers to other government entities, that is the current housing funds for members of County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the statement of receipts and payment reflects an amount of Kenya shillings 60 million in respect of transfers of other government entities, which include Kenya shillings 50 million for transfers to car loan and housing funds for MCS. Available payment purchase and bank statement for the same reflects an amount of 60 million, resulting in an explained difference of 10 million. In response, Mr. Speaker, the Assembly in the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget has appropriated Kenya shillings 95 million for loan, that is, housing for MCS 50 million, car for staff 10 million, housing for staff 35 million. During the fiscal year, only Kenya shillings 60 million was released to the Assembly. That is, Kenya shillings 50 million for MCS housing loans, and Kenya shillings 10 million for staff car and housing loans. The said amounts were transferred as follows. Kenya shillings 50 million to MCS Housing Fund account at KCB, while Kenya shillings 10 million was transferred to Staff Car Housing Fund account at Cooperative Bank. All these transfers were done directly from their recurrent account at CBK. The Kenya shilling 50 million for MCS housing loan was later transferred from the KCB account to SBM, who are the administrators of the fund. In observation, Mr. Speaker, the amount of Kenya shillings 10 million quoted as unexplained difference is erroneous. There was an oversight by the officer since the vouchers and the bank statements had balanced. In observation, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the management should thoroughly scrutinize issues raised in the management letter and address all such issues fully with the auditor to ensure such errors do not end up in the final report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Concern number 5 was failure to maintain motor vehicle records. The settlement of receipt and payment reflects an expenditure of Kenya shilling 358,214,428 for use of goods and services, which include Kenya shillings 2,242,984 for routine maintenance of vehicles and other transport equipment. However, review of available records revealed that vehicle repair details are never entered in their respective services logbooks, and further, vehicle services logbooks and fuel registers were not maintained as a measure to safeguard the county assembly from risk of losing funds through fictitious payment for repairs and fueling. It was therefore not possible to confirm that the amount of Kenya shillings 2,242,984 relates to repairs and maintenance of only the county assembly motor vehicles. The management, Mr. Speaker, said that the Assembly does not have a vehicle maintenance logbook, but the same will be opened and maintained the current financial year. The Assembly did not maintain a fuel register during the financial year, but they have now maintained one in this current financial year, and this was appealed to the auditors for verification. The Assembly had strong internal controls on motor vehicle maintenance and fueling, hence repairing and fueling privately owned vehicles was not possible. The committee, Mr. Speaker, observed that the management had not maintained motor vehicle records during the time of audit, and the Assembly had not put in place the necessary internal controls documents such as vehicle maintenance logbook and fuel register to regulate the use and operation of motor vehicles. In the recommendation, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Assembly should maintain vehicle maintenance logbook and fuel register to regulate the use and operation of the motor vehicles. B. The management should ensure that each vehicle is assigned to a specific driver, key performance indicators, that is the KPIs, for appraising the drivers to include vehicle maintenance and cost, fuel consumption, and traffic offenses committed. The management should appoint an officer who should be directly responsible for vehicle maintenance. Mr. Speaker, concern number 6 was the matter on unresolved prior year audit issues. Mr. Speaker, the following issues which relate to the 2016-2017 have remained unresolved up to this day. The issues have an effect on the current year's financial statement because they have been presented as opening balances and comparative figures. A. Presentation and disclosures. The financial statement did not include explanation on significant underutilization, overutilization of budget provisions prescribed in the reporting template issued by Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. The statement of financial assets and liabilities, statements of receipts and payments, and statement of cash flows indicate the comparative figures had been restated, while the statement of financial assets and funds indicate that the current year balances have been restated and reasons and extra statements were not given. In response, During the financial year, the Assembly had some underutilization on some fault in the budget. A note explaining the underutilization has been provided in the amended financial statement as shown under Note 20 on page 27 of the amended financial statements. The restated figures in the statement of assets and liabilities was as a result of recollection of a casting error meant on the total of financial assets figure of Kenya shillings 16,007,317 the financial year 2016-2017. The restatement meant in the statement of receipt and payment was to correct the figures of Kenya shillings 76 million and Kenya shillings 75 million that were earlier grouped under repayment of principal on domestic and foreign borrowing instead of transfers to other government units. The resettlement meant in the statement of cash flow was to correct the figures of transfer to fund account that was indicated as positive Kenya shillings 75 million instead of negative 75 million. In observation, Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that the fault stated was as utilized and overutilized were not disclosed in the response to the committee. The sources of casting error in the total financial assets figure of Kenya shillings 16,007,317 was also not disclosed in the response submitted to the committee. In the recommendations, therefore, Mr. Speaker, in information of the fault aids which aid underutilization and overutilization, complete with explanation to be available to the Auditor General to facilitate Croatia and copied to the committee. Information on the source of casting error in the total financial assets figure of Kenya 16,007,317 should be available to the Auditor General to facilitate disclosure and copied to the committee. B. Inaccuracies in the financial statements. The following issues relating to inaccuracies in the financial statements are still outstanding. Roman 1. While total expenditure as per statement of receipts and payments amounted to Kenya shillings 963,104,240, if Miss 40 book lifted Kenya shillings 882,860,547, resulting to an expense difference of Kenya shillings 53,279,724. Roman 2. The statement of comparison of budget and actual amounts for recurrent expenditure an amount of Kenya shillings 703,316 be actual expenditure on other payments. Amount was not included in the statement of receipts and payments. The statement of financial assets reflects cash and cash equivalent balances of Kenya shillings 15,385,320 as at 30th June 2017, but the following material omissions observed. The cash books closing balance as at 30th June 2017, in virtually all the cash were not certified by the Board of Survey members. A balance of Kenya shillings 4,492,198 as at June 2017 in account number 1144055455 in Kenya Commercial Bank was excluded from the shade of bank balances. A balance of Kenya shillings 14,977,097 as at 30th June 2017 owed in deposit account number 300,264,543 at the Central Bank of Kenya was also excluded from the schedules of bank balances. Consequently, the accuracy of the financial statements for the year ended 30th June could not be confirmed. In response, Mr. Speaker, the management said that the balance of Kenya shillings 53,279,723 and expenditure payment of the amount reported in the financial statement of the IFMI's 40 book is as a result of journals that did not complete in the IFMI system to reflect in the IFMI's general ledger. And we have begun, they had begun posting the journal entries. In observations, Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that KCB closing statement balance included the proceeds from disposal of motor vehicles amounting to Kenya shillings 4,492,790. There was no justification of the exclusion of this figure in the closing bank balance since any transfers to CRIF account occurred in the following financial year. In the recommendations, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the management should provide a reconciliation reflecting journal entries posted in the general ledger to address the outstanding balance of Kenya shillings 53,279,723. This reconciliation should be available to the Auditor General to facilitate correction and copy to the committee. B. That the management need to follow with the National Treasury with a view of correcting this technical abnormality in IFMIs to avoid future accuracies. C. The management should resubmit the amended financial statement to the Auditor General earlier, submitted to the Kenau office on 27 July 2018, and request closure on the query to avoid it recurring in the next financial year. And D, the bank balances must be reflected as the year and the deposits declosed also. C is the inaccurate basic salaries for permanent employees. While financial statements reflect a figure of Kenyan shillings at 169,962,929 and the basic salaries for payment employees, the integrated payroll and personnel database, that is IPPD, had Kenyan shillings 167,227,229, resulting in a variance of Kenyan shillings 2,735,694, which was not explained. Then the reconciling figure of Kenyan shillings 169,962,903 is still appearing as comparative figure in the 2017-2018 financial statement. In response, Mr. Speaker, during the financial year, the total amount paid for basic salaries during the financial year was Kenyan shillings 169,962,923. The total amount processed for MCS and staff basic pay through the IPPD system was Kenyan shillings 167,226,843 as per the IPPD schedules provided during audit. The Assembly had contractual staff who were not in the IPPD system, and the total amount paid during the financial year was Kenyan shillings 1,650,080. In addition, the Assembly paid a total of Kenyan shillings 1,086,000 to the fourth member of County Assembly Service Board during the financial year. Therefore, the total amount paid for salaries during the financial year was Kenyan shillings 169,962,923. C. The attached tabulation of the payment per month for the entire year. In the recommendation, Mr. Speaker, the management should avoid keeping Excel payroll and instead have all employees in IPPD, including CASIP members. Mr. Speaker, conclusively, the management of public funds is an issue the Kenyan population is passionate about. A fundamental objective of every government is maintenance of fiscal discipline, resource mobilization, strategic resource allocation, and efficient delivery of public services. Mr. Speaker, when the default system of government was adopted in Kenya, the importance of establishing strong and effective public financial system at the county level became inevitable. There has been considerable efforts towards establishing the foundations of sound PFM systems in many areas within the devolved system of government in Kenya. Although implementation of the PFM system in the counties is still in its formative stages, considerable achievements have been made in many fronts. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore my privilege and my pressure on behalf of the PAIC committee to table before this honorable house the report of financial statement of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended 30th June 2018 for discussion and adoption. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The report was prepared by Honorable Clerk Assistants Luke Mwangi and the entire PAC committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Joseph Musau, for that report, properly read. I now propose the question that this Honorable House discusses and approves the report of the Committee of Public Accounts and Investment Committee on the financial statements of County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended June 2018. Honorable members, you may discuss now on the motion. Honorable Steve Mwande.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Stephen Mwande, representing Kalakala Ward. Honorable Speaker, I'll start by appreciating the work that has been done by that committee. The report is a little bit surprising members if some of the things that we've heard are the things that has been happening. The Assembly has been very keen, especially on statements and records from the executive, not knowing that still we had such major problems from the report that we've seen, and which I believe it's a report that has been audited, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it has been much as the chairman has been a little bit too fast, and especially for members to capture some of the records, because they are financial records that needs some members to digest. But all in all, Honorable Speaker, there are some things that were noted, especially on areas like whereby the office furnitures were given 57 million, and there is a finance of over 1.2 million, Honorable Speaker. It's funny how such could happen, and further to that, Honorable Speaker, I would even request the committee to dig further and even get the tender document, because I don't.
The item on the report.
The item it might not be simple for me to get, but there is
you said it's
on the office furnitures that were paid 57 point something million, Honorable Speaker.
Okay. Go ahead.
While the records, the assembly's records was shown 56 million, and to me, I believe still 56 million could be on their side. So if the committee could get the tender document, could see exactly what the assembly was supposed to have paid, Honorable Speaker. And that brings up so many queries on the accountability and the happenings that have been happening in this assembly. Honorable Speaker, this report is for 2017-2018, and I understand that is the period when we were coming to this county assembly, Honorable Speaker. And for me, it shows that that is the only development that was done with the money that was left by our predecessors, by the first assembly, Honorable Speaker, meaning those furnitures were bought with those monies, meaning the money for completion of the office block still was paid with the monies that we found, Honorable Speaker, or maybe the little money that crossed over to 2018. So, one asks himself, as an assembly, as the second assembly, then, what have we been able to achieve if the furnitures and even the office block was bought with the money that we found, Honorable Speaker? Does it mean that we do not have development money? And if so, for those 3 years, what has the development money has been doing? If even furnitures were bought with those funds. Honorable Speaker, on that record, you will find that even there is some money that was paid to the 4th member for CASIB. And to me, I believe we do not have 4th member in our first year. So there is also, that is another serious question that we need to ask ourselves. If he or she was paid 1 million shillings, for whom was he or she working for? Because I don't believe we earned such members, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other area that is also surprising, and it is an area that I've also been noting, is you'll find that there is that story of paying immediately after in the month of July. Immediately we pass the budget, you find that there is some money in this report that we pay. It's not captured in the previous year, but according to the response that the committee was given, is that money was paid after the year was closed. To me, that is money that needs to be supplemented so that we may be able to pay such. And to me, it means then that it's just money hanging somewhere that is not captured in the following year, nor will it be found in the previous year. Honorable Speaker, it's a serious thing that needs to be checked on. And as I say that, Honorable Speaker, with a lot of information, that it's something that has been happening. It's something that has been happening here in the assembly, where money is just spent between in the early July, and it's not captured in the year before, and it's not supplemented to go in tandem with the following year. So, Honorable Speaker, I appreciate that work that has been done by this committee, and to me, I believe it's an highlighter to members also to check and make sure that we are very well versed with the happenings of this assembly and at least get to know bit by bit on what happens to the money allocated to the assembly, because it's taxpayers' money. It's money that also needs to be very well utilized, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Before I give to the next person, just a bit of guidance on the same, on these items. Just a guidance is that when you look at, for example, the issue of the furniture, 56 million for furniture, I think when the county assembly came, that building was empty. It had been constructed, but it was empty. So we're talking about the money which was used to furnish the entire new offices. I think that is what the 56 million is referring to. Money that was utilized to furnish the entire new office block. And therefore, when you look at the office block and how many offices are there, and you're talking about 56 million, then that money relates to that. The other item which I just wanted to find out, to turn out on here a bit through the is on the issues of payments of 30th June. I think when we're going through the report, we have seen that there is a circular which was given by the Treasury Department allowing certain transactions relating to prior periods to be expensed during the month of June. So I think I've also seen the committee has recommended that such items should actually be picked in the following year and noted as prior period adjustments instead of including them in the same financial year. You can bring them next year and then say they are prior period adjustments for the prior period. So actually I remember, because I'm also a member of this committee, that one of the issues which was raised was that Treasury needs to stop issuing circulars allowing funds which are meant for month of June but have been issued in the month of July to be expensed under the previous period. There is such a memo here. I think in the report is a memo which has been highlighted, which had been given by the Controller of Budget, highlighting specific items, and the Secretariat by now you should be looking for that memo on the notes so that you can be able to, I can be able to give, yeah. If you look at page 20, you'll see a circular was issued by the National Treasury giving directions on how to treat these funds received after, page 20, received after 30th of June, circular reference number AG 4/16/2, volume 2, 90. And there should be a copy attached to the same circular. So we are saying Treasury is giving such circulars authorizing spending of or expensing of money in prior period during the month of June, although the funds have been released in the month of July. So the committee, I think I've seen as a guidance, I've seen the committee has given a direction that we need to be, those items need to be expensed and reflected in the year they have been spent. If it is in the following year, let them be reflected in the financial statements for the following year. And then, as a note to the accounts, say these are prior period adjustments, and give a schedule there showing which were the prior period adjustments and disclose them. I just wanted to point out those two items. Okay, Honorable Cosmas Masesi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Cosmas Masesi, member Matungulu East Ward. Mr. Speaker, first I would like to appreciate the committee led by Honorable Wambua for giving us the report at this point in time. Although, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe it is totally unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, 3 years down the line is when we are getting a report on our activities within the County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I believe we have a top organ, which is the CASIB, whereby we have nominated 2 members. but they don't update members on what is normally happening. Again, Mr. Speaker, my question is if we get...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Honorable Moses Mita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Moses Mita, representing Kangundo Central Ward people and Majority Whip of the House. Mr. Speaker, owing to the business which is ahead of us, I wish to stand on point of order under Standing Order number 27 to request extension of time. Honorable Speaker, that aware that Standing Order number 27(2) provides that the Speaker shall interrupt business at 12:30 p.m. for the morning sitting. Aware that the Standing Order number 27(3) provides that the House may resolve to extend its sitting time. Aware that Standing Order number 27(4) requires motion to extend sitting time to be moved at least 30 minutes before the time appointed of adjournment. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the motion that the House resolves to extend its sitting time until the business is over. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I request to call Honorable Moffat Maida to second my motion.
Honorable Moffat.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to second the motion to extend time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. I think that's a procedural motion which has been moved to extend time in view of the fact that we still have one more motion to go. So I don't see anybody who will be opposing to that, and we extend time, honorable members. So, Honorable Cosmas Masesi, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was trying to put it, Mr. Speaker, today we are 2021, 2022. 2021, 2022. 2020, 2021. And we are looking at a report of 2017, 2018, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how do we correct these anomalies? I was asking Mr. Speaker if we get the quarterly reports, because those reports are meant to show us our progress, and I've never heard of such in this House, whereby every quarter we should get a report on the progress. Mr. Speaker, telling me that we had cashiers worth 1.6 million who are not within the payroll, and again we had a fourth member who was paid 1 million, again not in the payroll. And I'm very sure, Mr. Speaker, by this time, we had not agreed on that and the fourth member. That is by the year 2017, 2018. Mr. Speaker, last time when we had the report, the financial report at the Finance Committee, we were asking ourselves if we have some monies to carry forward during any financial year. And I'm surprised, Mr. Speaker, I can see some 4 million, which was gotten from the proceeds in disposal of vehicles, which, Mr. Speaker, we are not even told how many vehicles were sold and for what, for how much per vehicle. And again, there was 14.9 million, which were not even reflecting his balances the next financial year. Mr. Speaker, as an oversight entity, if we cannot look at issues whereby matters to do with members are affected. Mr. Speaker, I've seen us transfer monies from Treasury to KCB, then to SBM Bank. Why do we do these two double entries? Why was not the money transferred direct to the SBM Bank? Why do we transfer money to KCB, then again to the bank, which looks at the issues to do with the members' vehicles and loans, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it is surprising again, by then, we didn't have a vehicle maintenance logbook, whereby we can look at the assets of the county assembly. And that was the 5th year, Mr. Speaker, down devolution. bearing in mind that we are the second assembly. 4 years, the assembly did operations, no records of what we have, how many assets do we have. Mr. Speaker, this is as an assembly, we need to keep up our game and demand, Mr. Speaker. I've seen a difference of other government entities, a difference of 10 million. But they are down, Mr. Speaker, again, the report says that later there were explanations which tries to sort the mess above there. So, Mr. Speaker, I would urge we need to be getting the reports on quarterly basis. This will help us. And I'm doubting, Mr. Speaker, if we'll manage to get the report of this year before we exit this assembly. Because if today we are 2020, 2021, and we are looking at 2017, 2018, Mr. Speaker, this means that we will only be able to look at 2018, 2019, and that's all. So you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, we cannot audit ourselves. And no, I'm also always surprised how we manage to spend 100% of what we get. And if you look, I've never seen some money going to CRF from the county assembly. But you're always having some 1.6 billion from the executive going to the CRF. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of questions we need to ask ourselves. And, Mr. Speaker, we need to be serious with matters concerning assembly, because this is where members come in, and you know how the ground is. Let us be serious, Mr. Speaker. When we were getting the report, I was imagining I would see something to do with the monies going to the CRF for the last financial year. Bearing in mind that, Mr. Speaker, we retract a lot of activities from March to June. But again, we could not see any balance going to CRF from the last financial year. The Speaker, I want to rest my case there.
Honorable Moses Meta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Again, I'm Honorable Moses Meta. I want to applaud the Park Committee under the leadership of Ebo Chairman. And Honorable Speaker, again, we are facing a situation, Honorable Speaker, whereby it's hard to really accept what we are going through, Honorable Speaker. I believe that this institution is not that big to have complications when it comes to accounting matters, Honorable Speaker, because our activities are not broad, Honorable Speaker. And if indeed we would be having queries with these reports, Honorable Speaker, then the institution is known for oversight and checkmating the other arm of the government, Honorable Speaker. I don't know, Honorable Speaker, then if we are indeed, or else those who are being put in offices to take care of these issues are indeed qualified to undertake mandates before them, Honorable Speaker. We seem to be cooking books. I think that is the language, Honorable Speaker, which is known to the other side of accounts. And that's the reason why, as much as we know when auditors visit our institution, they need to find all relevant information on the table, Honorable Speaker. They don't need to be given follow-ups on queries which they ought to have brought up, Honorable Speaker. And it's not that we cannot employ either qualified staff for these things or have the right number if someone is overwhelmed somewhere. Because, Honorable Speaker, matters to do with finance are very serious and are very sensitive, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Stephen Mwande and Honorable Ngula Masesi have raised same issues which we also raised in the previous report, Honorable Speaker. And again, I want to urge this institution to listen to the plea from the chairman, Park. He requested, even if it means funding the committee so that they work on these reports, because we want to know what is happening in this institution, Honorable Speaker. We don't want those who will be in the next assembly to be working on matters which concern us. We need to work on our issues because these issues are current for us, and in case there is any queries we need to ask, because we are the people
Point
who
of
are in
information.
charge of whatever is happening, Honorable Speaker.
Point of information.
Honorable Speaker.
A point of information, Honorable Steve Mwandi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My point of information, I just wanted to inform the member that as Finance Committee, we've requested for those statements now from the Assembly, and soon Finance will also, you see, Honorable Speaker, PAC is dealing with the report, with the audited report from the Auditor General. Is the report we already have here, which of course cannot be updated to date. But now Finance has pushed for the statements from the Assembly, and soon Honorable Member Finance will be tabling updated report. Though it might miss the 2017, 2018, 2019 reports that we've not been receiving before, but now we'll have the updated one, Honorable Member. In fact, which I still believe has a lot of concerns. Maybe that members will come to find, including having some borrowed money that we did not pay. Just as I had mentioned earlier, Honorable Chair, there is 4.5 that crossed over, was spent last year. But when you look at our records, the year crossed with 162 shillings only. But KCB is demanding the Assembly 4.5 million for that same year. That means this year, that the 4.5 million we'll have now to eat on this year, Honorable Speaker. So it's area of concern that, and I believe soon all that information will be brought to this House, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Member. So that issue will be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Honorable Moses Mita.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Stephen Mwandi, Chair, Finance Committee. I think the message I'm trying to stress here, Honorable Speaker, is that we need to up our game, and we need the relevant office to be serious on what they are being requested, or else on what they are being employed, what they are earning to do. Because, Honorable Speaker, we don't need to be asking them to provide this information, Honorable Speaker. That delay is causing a concern. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to support the report, and we need to make follow-ups and serious follow-ups and ensure that queries which are being brought forward are cleared so that the upcoming reports don't have extensions on carry forward queries. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Moses. Honorable Josephat Kasioki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Josephat Mwanzia Kasioki, MCH Elen Ward, and a member of PAC. Mr. Speaker, my feel is that about the report, documents should be issued to auditors, because when you are auditing, what is needed is document which has figures. And unless an auditor is issued or is given documents, obvious we'll get a co-audit query. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, is about the manual ledger. With the IFMIs, no manual ledgers should be in existence. So I think in our next report, there shouldn't be nothing like manual ledgers. The other thing is about the double entries. Most of the double entries, honorable members, are appearing only in the manual ledgers. In the FMEs, there is nothing like double entry. You can't do a double entry in the FMEs. And finally, Mr. Speaker, there are anomalies in the posting of receipts of last financial years. There should not be posting of receipts received after 30th. Because even if you post that receipt in the manual ledger as received before 30th, the statement from the bank will sell you out. Because the statement from the bank will show the date the receipts were received at the bank. So my humble request is for the accounting officer in the National Account Assembly to make sure all the relevant documents are captured in the right time and given to the auditors in the right time. Because if the documents are given, I'm very sure we will not be seeing the reports we are getting in the Assembly. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we would also, as members of the Second Assembly, wish to see our reports. Our reports should not be discussed by those who will come after us. Let those who will come after 2022 discuss reports of 2022, 2023, but not from 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021. That's my humble request. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Moffat Maida.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank those who spoke before me and thank the committee for that elaborate report which we are discussing, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as other members have said, the honorable members in this House have been on the heels of the executive, forgetting that we are also in an institution which some funds are also sent, which should be checked on by these members. What I wanted to ask, Honorable Speaker, let us do like what Honorable Kasioka has said, that we request for audited reports of the years when we have been here, so that we can discuss them. When they are brought, when we are not there, how will those honorable members who will be there know what was done and what was not done? Let us be serious as we go after the executive. Let our own assembly be faithful to the House and show the records of the usage of the money which they receive from the Treasury. Honorable Speaker, the other thing which I would wish to say is that the members who have been elected to the CASIB seems to have been compromised. Why don't you, the minority and the majority, at least do a change and then bring other honorable members, and then we see whether those who will come will give us the correct thing at the correct time, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, this House seems to have been compromised everywhere. And I want us to be faithful to ourselves and to our electorate. There is a building which is going on there. We did not, it was proposed by the other assembly, the first account assembly. we would wish also to see quarterly reports on what is happening and the money which has been used, not waiting until the whole building is completed and then we are told it has been, this and that has been used to complete the building, Honorable Speaker. I thank all of you for the contributions you have made. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I now request the Chair Park to respond to the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, the honorable members, for the audience, for your good audience. You are that of vigilance, despite the fact that the report was one of the longest reports we have ever had in this house. Mr. Speaker, there comes a time we ask ourselves, how soon is soon? How current is current? Mr. Speaker, may I attest and testify to this house, if we have any reports that we have acted the soonest possible, this one is one of them, despite it being a 2017-2018 report. In my moving the motion, Mr. Speaker, I said that cognizant that the audit report on financial statements of Machakos County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended June 2018 was received in the Office of the Clerk in 18th October of 2018, Mr. Speaker. That means it was received timely. It was received within the mandatory and the statutory 3 months, Mr. Speaker. The Office of the Clerk received that report within the given timelines. Down there, Mr. Speaker, you shall realize, aware that the Assembly forwarded the response for this report of the Audit Report General that was received on 31st August 2020, Mr. Speaker. The officers in our finance department received or prepared their work timely, presented to the Office of the Clerk, and the same work lied somewhere in the office, in our offices, and was forwarded to Auditor Generals and received in 31st August 2020, Mr. Speaker. Almost 2 years later, Mr. Speaker. So, the Park Committee finds itself between a rock and a hard place because some challenges are beyond our abilities. And we check very well, Mr. Speaker, informed that after 1 week upon receiving this report, on 7th September, Mr. Speaker. Kwa hivyo, Mr. Speaker, this work came to the Park Committee authentically on 7th of September 2020. And we invited the accounting officer. So, Weshimiwa, from 7th September, the report is already out and is in the assembly. So we worked within the least time possible. There is no other report we have ever acted in such a short time, Weshimiwa. So as members are putting it, Mr. Speaker, there is a need for all timelines to be obeyed by all actors. Because, Mr. Speaker, auditing is a cycle. It is a process. It is never an event. After June, the County Assembly has 3 months and all other entities that can be audited have 3 months to cover this report. Within 6 months, the Auditor General must bring that report out. So, there is a total of 9 months. 3 months for the entity to produce this report, and the auditor has 6 months. It is a total of 9 months. The maximum. But you see, this one cost almost 2 years. Any delay in stage 1 is a delay in the final step, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with the honorable members here. There is no way, Mr. Speaker, we can wash any clothes to cleanliness when our hands are dirty. If at all, there is an example that must be set, it must be set by this county assembly. Before we blame any other entity for late submission, we should ourselves submit our reports timely and act on them very timely, so that we are holy, so that we can engage the holiness of other entities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I usually stand here full of shy, because when we talk of 2017 or 2018, and we are in 2020, then the honorable members have a reason to raise the alarm. Mr. Speaker, a member has asked whether we shall be able to do all our reports within our time in this house. Mr. Speaker, shall realize on 24th of this September 2020, just last month, the office of the clerk had written to the Hunter General, actually almost demanding them to do what they have not done up to now. If you allow me, Mr. Speaker, I will read the letter and see the hardships we are facing. It is titled Submission of Audit Reports, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Clerk is telling the Hunter General, we draw your attention to the provision of Section 44, subsection 2 of the Public Audit Act 2015 that provides that within 6 months after the end of the financial year, the Auditor General shall express an opinion and certify the result of that examination and audit. The Assembly of Machakos has so far not received, those are the keywords, Mr. Speaker, not received any audit report for the financial year 2018-2019. And unless from the date of this letter up to the day they brought some, up to now we might not be having any reports for 2018-2019. So, Honorable Masesi, through Mr. Speaker, imagine we don't have any report for 2018-2019. Therefore, the question comes in, why the delay? The entities to be audited have their delay. The Auditor General has his own delay. We found ourselves, Mr. Speaker, in a fix. We found ourselves in a fix. If the office of the clerk must demand, the reports were compiled within the 3 months, they were taken to the Auditor General, and up to now, there is no single report for 2018-2019 in this assembly. Bearing in mind what we are calling 2018-2019, this financial year expired on 30th June 2019. Today we are October 2020. So these reports are already late by 1 year and almost 4 months. By the time they shall come, they shall be committed by the Board Chair, the Speaker, to the Committee of Public Accounts. These shall be subjected to derogation by the committee. The committee will have to retreat and compare a report. That means another 2 months may expire, Mr. Speaker. As these delays, Mr. Speaker, actually mostly are not occasioned by the membership or the entire PAC committee. They are reasons beyond our ability, Mr. Speaker, beyond our reach, beyond our control. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we do beg, we do pray to the Honorable Chair of this House to help the PAC committee in making their work easier. Because honorable members here in, here out, will ever complain, and their blame will be very genuine. These reports are late. And now, Mr. Speaker, the occasioning of the lateness has become a matter of suspicion. Because honorable member here today, Mr. Speaker, cannot fully connect the report being read today and the happenings of 2018-2017, Mr. Speaker. So now we doubt the lateness. the reasons behind the readiness, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we usually realize that the audit exercise for audit reports for the year 2019-2029 will begin this month. 2019-2020. So these timelines, Mr. Speaker, gives us scope, gives a view of what is expected of us. So, Mr. Speaker, I would wish to thank the honorable members once again for being such vigilant. And I want to echo the Waheshimiwa's words that we should wash our hands to be very clean before we use the same hands to wash other people's clothes, other dressings of other entities to cleanness. Let's first clean ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members, for that lengthy report. I would wish to say thank you to members of the Park Committee. Mr. Speaker, as I said it before, we are being forced even to work odd hours without facilitation. So, honorable members, our prayers is that in order to get very timely reports, let all entities play their parts by submitting their reports timely. Let the Auditor General do their work fast enough, and as House, please have mercy on this Park Committee. It needs more facilitation. If ever, we have to complete our works within the given timelines, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Joseph Musau. I now put the question that this Honorable House discusses and approves the report of the Committee of Park, Public Accounts and Investment Committee on the financial statements of the County Assembly of Machakos for the year ended June 2018. As many as other opinions say ayes. Ayes. On the outside, the extended chamber, as many as other opinions say ayes. As many as the contrary opinions say nay, the ayes have it. Honorable members, before I just move ahead on the next motion, I just would like to comment on a few things on that item, and especially on what the chair has emphasized on, and this is on the need for timelines to be met. When you look at the report, it's talked about up to now, we have not received any report from the Office of the Auditor. The Public Audit Act 2015, Section 44(2) provides that the appointed auditor shall examine and audit the submitted accounts of the Office of the Auditor General within 6 months after the end of the financial year in accordance with the provisions of Part 4 of this Act, express an opinion, and certify the result of that examination and audit. So the question here is that if the auditors did come here and audited the financial statements for the year 2018-2019, if they came here in October last year and did their audit, then we are expecting that within 6 months of their coming year, that is within 6 months from October of 2019, they should have been here. So we're talking about October, November, December, January, February, March. The latest those reports should have been here is March of this year. So there is no reason whatsoever, therefore, why the Office of the Auditor General has not yet submitted the report, and I would direct that the Office of the Clerk writes to the Office of the Auditor General and requests to urgently be provided with the audited reports for the said financial period 2018-2019. And the same letter also requests that once the financial audit for the current financial year are done, then it's the expectation of this House that according to the Public Audit Act of 2015, that we shall be getting our financial year 2019-2020 reports by March 2021. That will facilitate us to be able to do all the reports which we can be able to do as an house. The only year which will be done by the incoming assembly, next assembly, will be for our last financial year, because the 6 months will fall way after we have vacated the assembly, and therefore we need to be able to ensure that is done. Two things. One, there's an honorable member who talked about the CRIF money. It's important to know that monies which remain in the CRIF do not remain in the account for the assembly, they remain in the county revenue fund, and the balances for last year was 1.2 billion, including any balances which were there for the assembly will be included in that figure of 1.2 billion sitting in the CRIF and is reflected in the supplementary budget which we have. The other thing which I also noted is that in the report there was talk about lack of staffing as an issue to do with why the reports are not being done on time. It beats logic why maybe the County Assembly Service Board did not employ staff on contract, 2-year contract, 3-year contract, for that period when they did not have staff to be able to take care of the shortfall in the staffing which was there, because when you employ someone on contract, you do not have an obligation to renew. Therefore, you can be able to employ somebody on contract for a specific period, and when the other staff are instated, you should be able to cancel the contracts, because it's a contract. Then payments which have been done after June, or receipts which have been done after 30th of June, should, as you have said, be reflected in the next financial year's financial statements as prior year adjustments, and stop being reflected in the current year. Remember what they are doing. When you hear them talking about they provided adjusted financial statements, you cannot have adjusted financial statements from IFMIS, because the IFMIS figure, what was reading, that is what it was reading. You can only have adjusted financial statements from manual ledger. And that's why we are saying we should stop utilization of the manual general ledger and stick to the IFMIS ledger, so that the trial balance and the statements you give to the auditor as at 30th of June, as printed at the end of the accounting period, are preparing the financial statements as at that date, which will match with your bank statements, which will match with all the other statements which you have, and anything else occurring thereafter needs to come in the next financial year, and if it relates to the prior year, then it's reflected as prior year adjustments in that year's financial statements. So I think the honorable members have expressed themselves, and I believe action will be taken accordingly. Mr. Clerk, proceed.
Order number 9, motion, approval of waiver of permits for bars and clubs.
Honorable members, under this order number, we have one motion to be moved by the Honorable Stephen Mwandi, Chairperson, Finance and Revenue Collection Committee. Honorable Steve.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Stephen Mwandi, representing the Kalakala Ward. Honorable Speaker, that aware that Article 210 sub-Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya provides that no tax or licensing fee may be imposed, waived, or varied except provided by legislation. Further, aware that the County Assembly enacted the Machakos County Finance Act 2019, which provides for imposition of taxes, fees, and charges. Aware that this act provides for licensing of entertainment, joint selling alcohol to acquire single business permits, SBP. Also aware that the SBPs expire on 31st December every year. Concerned that the coronavirus 2019 pandemic has far-reaching effects to the economy worldwide. Aware that businesses in our count have not been spared either from these effects. Also aware that the businesses selling alcoholic drinks such as bars and clubs have been out of business for 6 months between April to September 2020. Aware that this was as a result of the order by the President of Kenya to close the businesses in order to contain the spread of COVID-19. Noting that the bars and clubs have suffered significant loss of revenue due to the closure, further aware that there are only 3 months to the expiry of their licenses and the business may not be able to recover the lost revenue, aware that the businesses need to be supported to start afresh, aware that one way of assisting the businesses is to reduce the costs of acquiring permits to operate as they will expire in 3 months' time. Honorable Speaker, I wish to move the motion that the Assembly resolves 1. That all the charges for permits, including public health certificates and single business permits for bars and clubs and any other alcoholic selling business, be reduced by 50%. And 2. That the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8th of October and 30th of November 2020. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and so I call upon Honorable Masesi to second the motion.
Honorable Cosmas Masesi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm Cosmas Masesi, member to this assembly representing the great people of Matungulu Eastward. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion, bearing in mind that the effects of the pandemic since the closure of these business entities by the national government, Mr. Speaker, the flow of funds, the income has been largely affected, and so I support, Mr. Speaker, let the owners and operators get a 50% discount and pay 50% for the remaining 3 months until to the closure of the financial year in terms of the finance bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Cosmas Masesi for seconding that motion. I now propose the question that this Honorable House resolves that all charges for permits, including public health certificates and single business permits for bars and clubs, and any other alcoholic selling business, be reduced by 50%. That the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8th October and 30th November 2020. Honorable members, you may debate on the motion. Honorable Kisila.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand here to support the motion. This has come out in a lot of forums through our people on the ground. The COVID-19 has grossly affected businesses. And it's only fair that we support our people. Because if we don't support them this way, they will obviously suffer. They have already suffered, and charging them the exact amount of fee will actually be making them suffer more. So, first of all, as a member of the Finance Committee, this was brought to our attention, and also as a member of Mwala, our people are requesting if we can take action so that we can be able to support them. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand here to support, and I think we should pass the motion.
Thank you. Honorable Helen Ndeti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand here to support the motion because I believe that everybody knows that from January or February of this year, most of the bar operators have not been able to open their businesses. In fact, we would have called for a waiver, not going 50%, but we also have to think about the county, which also has to levy revenue so that it can also deliver services to the people of Machakos. So I support the motion that we levy 50% so that we can also cushion their losses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Moses Mita.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Honorable Moses Mita, representing Kangundo Central Ward people. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the mover of the motion, Honorable Stephen Mwandi, for thinking about our business people. Honorable Speaker, indeed our traders have been fully affected by this COVID-19 issue. Not only bar owners, but also all the businesses across the country. Honorable Speaker, I would want to maybe request the Honorable Stephen Mwandi, because the pleas are too, Honorable Speaker. And it's good we get it right, Honorable Speaker, so that whatever will pass is clear and crystal clear to the traders, Honorable Speaker. Number one, that all the charges for permits, including public health certificates and single business permits for bars and clubs and any other alcoholic selling business, be reduced by 50%, Honorable Speaker. There is two, that the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8th October and 30th November 2020, Honorable Speaker. This point I'm seeking clarity, Honorable Speaker, is that it is clear that whatever we are passing is not implementable in the forthcoming financial year, Honorable Speaker, so that we don't have a resolution which might be misinterpreted, Honorable Speaker. I wish to request Honorable Stephen Mwandi maybe to clarify that whatever we are about to pass, if at all the House will adopt it, is only and purely for this year, Honorable Speaker, and that from January next year, the traders will be paying what they are supposed to pay, Honorable Speaker. That is the only clarity I wanted to request Honorable Stephen Mwandi to make, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Let me just try and understand what you're saying. The motion which has been moved here is reducing by 50%, which means going forward, they'll be paying only 50%. Okay? Or is it reducing, is it seeking to have them reduced by 50% for 6 months, and then after that they revert to the normal rates? Or are we reducing permanently? I think that's the question. Are we reducing permanently by 50%?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The number 2 has highlighted that, and we are requesting for that only as from 8th of October to the 30th November 2020. That is just 1 month and some days. Reason being, as revenue committee, we would also want them to move fast and take advantage of the 50% reduction so that they may pay. After 30th of November this year, we will revert back now to the normal 100%. Maybe for those who will not have opened, we will revert back now to the 100% that was there before. So it's just like a 1 month waiver for them at least to rush and take that advantage of paying the 50%, then later revert back.
Then I would suggest that you have a C. My suggestion is, as I give guidance, is you have a 3 that any payments which will be done after the 30th of November will be, as always from 1st of December, will be as per the normal rates. Put it here so that it doesn't have any ambiguity in this. I would suggest to an amendment to the motion so that you add that item 3 there to ensure that people know that they are, so that for you to be effective, what you want to achieve to be effective, let it be clear that anybody who pays on 1st of December will be paying as per the normal rates, then we'll have achieved. I would suggest that, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Then I wish to move the amendment to have the number 3, indicating that payments made after the 30th of November, that is from 1st of December the payments reverts back now to the normal rates of the finance bill, Honorable Speaker. So if we can have that C, and then I call upon Honorable Brian Kisila to support that amendment.
Thank you, Honorable Brian Kisila.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Honorable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry for that. My name is Honorable Brian Kisila, representing the people of Mwala. I support.
Honorable Tariq Mulatia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Honorable House. I stand here to support this motion. My name is Honorable Tariq Mulate Mwema, representing the great people of Masinga Central and the great business people around that region. Mr. Speaker, I think on Friday last week, I had public participation at Masinga Market. Actually, people were ready to demonstrate and bring kills to my market because of what we are talking about right now. And our people, when we gave them the chance, because I went there with the administrator and the revenue, the person who is in charge of revenue, Masinga Sub-County, and the public really, they were driving very strong points to us. One being that COVID-19 did not only affect Masinga Central. It was not even affecting only Kenya. It was affecting the whole world. And Mr. Speaker, you will note that when our revenue clerks, they are collecting the revenues there, they try to use force because, you know, it's not all our people who are ready to pay. So when we went there, it was chaotic. And I told them that because I had to call Honorable Stephen Mwandi, because he's the finance chair. Actually, I called him and I had to put him on speaker, asking him how we can help these people from our area. The people who run clubs and bars, they were very specific. It's only remaining less than 2-3 months for the financial year to close. And they were being told, and they closed their businesses back from March, around that period. And these people, they have been staying at home. And you realize that, Mr. Speaker, liquor is not like maybe you are selling sand or stones. Liquor will expire. So you will note that somebody who had a stock from that time, it has expired. And now to look for capital to come back to this business, it's quite a challenge. We've seen what rains have done to our farms. You can see how dry it is in Machakos County, even in Kenya. So I really support this motion because our people really need this favor. And you know, if it comes to next year, we also, because I saw your directions to the chair, that to specify exactly how we want it to be. But I think, Honorable Speaker, as much as we want to help our people, we don't want them to start another chaos the coming year. We want it to be a peaceful year. Let them get advantage of what the reduction for this year. But also, we should also, Honorable Chair Finance, we should also specify if you didn't pay within that period and next year comes, what is your fate? Are you still going to pay what you are supposed to pay, the 50%, and then come back here? Or if the period closes, is it October or November? November. If it closes, then that is gone story. You have to repay again. I think we have to specify because our people are very keen when they are paying this revenue. And,
point of information.
I wish to be informed also.
Okay, point of information by Honorable Cosmas Masesi.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member of the Finance Committee, I want to believe we talked on that issue at length. And this is only, Mr. Speaker, is on the period, for the remaining period of this financial year. Mr. Speaker, if you don't pay within or in between to 30th November this year, January 1st December, as you had put it, Mr. Speaker, you will pay the normal rates. for this financial year, which again, Mr. Speaker, cuts across the next financial year, rates will be normal. No issues of reduction of the 50%.
Okay, Honorable Tariq.
I think, Honorable Speaker, we should be very keen on this particular section. What about if somebody did not make it to open his shop maybe within this period, and then the last month, the last 10 days, he happens to open and he could not gather all this money?
Point of information.
We really need, Honorable Speaker, as much as he's going to inform me, we really need to be specific so that we won't confuse our people, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Simonde.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I just want to inform the member that, and one thing we need all to understand is all our SBPs expires on the 31st day of December every year. So as by January of every year, we start afresh issuing SBPs. So whatever we are doing here will only apply for this year. Whoever will be paying us from 1st of December to the 31st of December, it means that his or her permit will only help him or her for 30 days only. And even if he pays on 2nd of December, he will again pay in the month of January just as usual. So the year for these SBPs ends on that 1st of December every year.
Just to add on to that, I think for guidance, normally it begins on 1st of January, but in normal they are given a grace period up to 31st of March. So I think what the Honorable Member is saying that if you pay now the 50% now, then you'll be able to run with the 50% up to 31st of March. Yeah, because they are given a grace period of 3 months within which to pay. So that trader can be able to utilize that 50%, and then before the 1st of March, they'll pay for the full year next year again. So I think that is that. Am I right, Honorable Chair? Okay, Honorable Tariq, finalize, please.
Yeah, I'm finalizing. Honorable Speaker, also there is another issue on the same collections, because I'm trying to bring to the House what I gathered from my public participation. Maybe, honorable members, some of us did not get that chance to meet with our people. They're also complaining about the penalties. And I don't know if, because I've not read the report, I was outside. So I don't know how we are going to do with the penalties, because some of them are saying, by that time when they were supposed to pay, there was a closure in the whole country. So they could not pay. So some of them, they came to open their shops later, maybe March or June. So they were also, I would think also we should also amend here and say that we should stop the penalties, at least for this year. The next year, we resume back to our normal. So I don't know how we are going to put, we need a direction here.
Honorable Tariq, I think has a valid point. What Honorable Tariq Mulate is asking is that normally our traders are given a grace period to pay by 31st of March. And remember that COVID struck in March. So maybe by the 31st of March, there might have been traders who were not yet paid for their permits. And then in April, it was stopped completely. So I think the Honorable Member is asking, are we telling them they will be charged a penalty plus the 50%, or is just that the 50% without the penalty? Because now, if our people now go on the ground and say that, yes, you did not pay on time, so we are charging you penalty, and then now take advantage of the 50%, so they'll be demanding for penalty and then saying pay 50%. That is, I think, what the Honorable Member is saying, which needs to be clarified. Honorable Steve.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think as committee, in fact, we end interactions with the executive, who is the chief officer and the director, over that issue of penalty. And we all agreed that this year we are not supposed to penalize all our traders, not only the ones in the clubs. We had that agreement. And so maybe because it was not legislated in the assembly here, then I feel it's something that week maybe we can add, and if possible for all the traders, because it will not make sense when we penalize our people when they were closing their shops. For sure, by that 1st of March, when they were supposed to have paid, their shops were closed. Our revenue clerks were even at home. So it doesn't make sense when we charge them, when we penalize them, when even they were not there, the clerks couldn't move around and pick their revenues, Honorable Speaker. So I believe it's an brilliant idea that if with your guidance, if it is possible now, even the penalties to touch across the traders, all the traders should not be penalized, Honorable Speaker. But that should be through your guidance. I don't know, because the motion looks somehow as addressing bars and clubs. If possible, we can have that. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I would also request for number 4, amendment that will touch all our traders, possibly stating that there will be no penalties for all traders in Machakos County for the year 2020.
It just needs to be specific. It's for late payment of permits.
Yeah. Thank you. There will be no penalties for late payments of the SBPs for all our traders in the year 2020, Honorable Speaker.
Order, please, of the motion.
And so I call upon Honorable Mbili Ndawa to second that amendment.
Honorable Judas Mbili Ndawa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Judas. Mr. Speaker, my name is Judas Mbili Ndawa, representing the great people of Matu. I want to second the motion and request if you allow me to contribute at this point.
Second the amendment.
Yes, I want to second the amendment proposed by the chairperson.
So before you move, I want to put the proposal fresh.
Yes.
So that you can now contribute with the new amendments in place.
Yeah.
Honorable members, there are some amendments that have been moved, and I now propose the question that this Honorable House resolves that all the charges for permits, including public health certificates and single business permits, for bars and clubs and any other alcoholic selling business be reduced by 50%, that the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8 October and 30 November 2020. 3, payments made as from 1st of December 2020 will revert back to normal charges for the next financial year, for the financial year. And 4, no penalties will be charged for late payment of permits in the financial year 2020. You may now continue to contribute on the motion as amended. Honorable Leaders now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to first congratulate the chairperson who has brought this motion. In fact, the motion is timely. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the county charges business from January to the end of the year, that is at 1st December. And as you are aware, Mr. Speaker, in the month of March, the traders and only operated for 3 months. That is January, February, and part of March. From that time, there was about 6 months closure by the national government because of COVID-19. So the remaining time that they're supposed to work is only 3 months. That is October, November, and December. So if you do proper calculation, you will find that the business will only operate for 6 months. So the proposal to cut the fees by 50% is quite in order, because we are paying for the period we are going to do business. Madam Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe that the motion is brought in good faith. And why I'm saying it's brought in good faith, because of effects of this COVID-19, some of the business operators have already gone down. Their financial status has gone down. And unless we do something to assist them, they may not even continue operating their businesses. Mr. Speaker, if they opt not to operate the business, the county itself is also going to suffer, because those who are supposed to pay these fees have gone on. So, Madam Mr. Speaker, I want to say this COVID-19 has brought what we call in law, in Julius Sindamnam. It has injured the businesses. And at the same time, it has caused damages to those businesses. And at the same time, it has injured the county. And it has caused damages to the county. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe the chairperson will go to heaven because of thinking of how to assist the county move forward, and also how to assist the business people to continue in their business. So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly support that point. The other point, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about is the issue of penalties. Mr. Speaker, the delay of payment is not the fault of the business people. It is the fault of the epidemic, that pandemic that came. The National Assembly, guided by the Minister of Health, sat down and agreed that we are going to close these businesses. So it is because of that. That is why these people fail to make their payment in good time. So there is no need of punishing these traders for mistakes that they never committed. So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly agree that let us allow our traders who do not pay without charging any extra coin. And, Mr. Speaker, this communication should be made properly so that we can secure our traders from this extortion by these inspectorate officers. Because whenever they go there, they just want to harass these people. They want to instill fear in them so that they can get whatever they are going to get for their own personal gain. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if all the monies that are supposed to be paid to the county go to the pocket of the county, I'm very sure the county will be moving forward. But because of these conmen and con ladies, they are collecting funds, and instead of directing them to the right account, they pocket the money. As we are all aware, Mr. Speaker, there is what we call automation. The money is we are not supposed to collect cash. But if you go to markets, you'll find these people collecting money cash. You'll see somebody collecting from more than 20 traders. And if you ask, where is the receipt? Have you sent the money to the account? The response you will get from that particular revenue clerk is that I'm going to send in the evening. So who is going to watch? Who is going to ensure that the coin that was collected by 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, 10, 2 in the evening, in the afternoon, who is going to ensure that all that money has been sent to the right kitty? So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly agree with the proposals in this motion. And I would request the chair, when you're making your determination, kindly consider time. Because if you say, I commit this motion to a certain committee, report back after 30 days, they may not be able to report back that days. You will hear, please give us an extension. So the motion is going to die. So I'm requesting that we consider time so that the intention of the motion is achieved. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Angela Manyasia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I really would like to say I commend the committee for coming up with this resolution of having business permit traders licenses reduced by 50%. My only concern, Honorable Speaker, is that we have specifically put bars and clubs as the main businesses that we are considering for this. When it goes out there, it will be, people will wonder, these people just thought of bars. You know, not many people will, they'll say bars and, they say bars and alcoholic selling businesses. I don't know why we needed to specify those ones, Honorable Speaker, because business permits cuts across all the businesses. Many people lost businesses. There are people who own schools. And those schools, many of them have closed down, and we have not specified here schools. So if we could only say for traders and not have to specify bars and alcohol selling institutions, then I think it will be more generalized, and we will not be seen like we are really putting emphasis on bars and alcohol selling businesses. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I think, okay, Honorable Angela, I think the spirit of the motion was that the business which was affected for 6 months and which was closed down over 6 months is alcohol, is bars. Those are the only ones which were opened up the other day in terms of businesses. I hear your cry in terms of schools, which are also affected. But since the motion has already been moved, then maybe we'll be able to look for amendments to the motion. But as it is right now, I believe it is the way it is tailored. It is tailored targeting the businesses which were closed for a very long period of time, businesses affecting everybody. The majority of our people, I think, are those in bars, not those who own schools, but those who own bars. So I believe it's specific for alcohol. Then I would request the chair, they need also to consider other businesses going forward. Honorable members, I now put the question that this Honorable House resolves. Can I call the mover of the motion to respond, please?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the issue of bars and alcoholic selling outlets came because it's bars that were closed. Shops were still running; they were not closed, and it's bars that were opened just the other day by the president. So those ones were officially closed. The issue of
Honorable Angela, let the honorable member finish, please. His submissions.
The issue of schools, Honorable Speaker, I believe schools are still not yet open. So I don't think they are still meeting with our revenue clerks for paying anything. Still, schools are still closed, possibly until next year when the year opens. Honorable Speaker, I would want just to say these are a few remarks that sometimes it's people who, when people raise alarm, when people feel that they are being oppressed, it's when you consider and work on them. It's that sector that has raised alarm immediately. after the president opens the bars and eateries, it's when they raised the alarm and we had to consider them. It's a good idea. Some of these people will never open their premises. Others are just still struggling with their landlords to see whether they'll be allowed to open or not. And many of them, honestly, will not open. The landlords are now negotiating with the other traders who were doing other things. And it's a sector that also has been holding the economy of our county to some extent. When we talk of bars and clubs, we mean the authorized ones, not maybe the ones that are selling the illicit brew. So I think it was good, and I appreciate all members who have contributed, who have even helped the motion to be the way it is now with those amendments that we've done. It now looks better for our people, Honorable Speaker. So thank you all, and even the corrections and the information that you are giving are bringing or will cause other similar motions to come, and I believe this Honorable House will listen, deliberate, and approve them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Steve Mwandi. I now put the question that this Honorable House resolves, 1, that all the charges for permits, including public health certificates and single business permits for bars and clubs and any other alcoholic selling business, be reduced by 50%. 2, that the reduction be effective for businesses applying for permits between 8th October and 30th November 2020. 3, that payments made after, as from 1st of December 2020, will revert back to the normal charges which are being charged currently. 4, no penalties will be charged for late payment or permits in the financial year 2020. As many as other opinions say ayes. As many as other opinion on the extended chamber say ayes. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, the House stands adjourned to resume again on Tuesday, the 6th day of October, 2020 at 2:30 p.m. Enjoy your lunch.